Hello? Hello? Hi. You are watching the history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. If you're watching this, you must be a new member of the Freddy Fazbear's crew. Either that or you're watching this from the future at the Smithsonian after Freddy Fazbear's has become the largest franchise in the world. I got that from one of my higher-ups. I can't take credit for that one. However, this video should teach you all you need to know about Freddy Fazbear's and its long-running history. Now, if you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments below after the video is completed. Until then, I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of our good friend Simon, who will teach you everything you need to know about your future job. Remember, you're the new face of Freddy Fazbear's, so be sure to smile.
Five Nights at Freddy's 3 has hit the world by storm. By far the most polished game Scott Cawthon has given us thus far, and it puts the final piece in the puzzle of the vague story he has crafted for us over the past 3 installments. And that's just the beauty of it. He never told us a story with these games, he crafted it for us to figure out. So as an opinionated jackass with a YouTube account, I feel it is my obligation to try and figure out what the story is. Now, I put theoretical in the title for a reason. Most of what I say in this video is based on theories and theories alone, either some that others have come up with a long time ago that I just so happen to agree with, and some that I've just deduced for myself using common logic. Though they may have some strong evidences behind them, they are still at the end of the day theories without being full-on approved by Scott himself. So, keep that in mind while watching this video. Also, there will be spoilers from this point onwards, so if you haven't played or at least watched up to Five Nights at Freddy's 3 all the way through, then now's the point to stop, because I bounce around all 3 games at random, so I can't tell you if there's an appropriate point where there is no spoilers at all, so I guess go watch something and come back when you're caught up. Now, there are 5 points of history I feel are important to the entirety of the plot, funnily enough, 3 of which we experienced for ourselves in the games, and 2 of which we only heard mentioned during the various phone calls we got at differing parts of the series. These points being Fredbear's Family Diner, which was mentioned in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Classic location, which was alluded to in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Freddy Fazbear's 1987 location, which is the setting of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Freddy Fazbear's final location, which is the setting of the original Five Nights at Freddy's, and Fazbear Frights, the horror attraction, which is the setting of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Now, I hope you're all ready for a little history lesson. Because yes, this is all mostly theory and speculation, but I feel after this video, you will have a new perspective on the history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and the hauntings that surround it. On night 5 in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, our good old friend the phone guy mentions an original owner to an old place, which is then referred to as Fredbear's Family Diner. Now, we know there is actually a location of Freddy Fazbear's before the 1987 location in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which I'll get to later, so we know that Fredbear's actually goes back quite a ways. A good comparison is saying that Fredbear's is kind of the Showbiz Pizza to Freddy Fazbear's Chuck E. Cheese. Now, what relevance does this have to the plot, you may ask? Well, a fair bit. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there is a minigame which is referred to as the Take Cake to the Children minigame, which I will show again real quick for good measure. Just in case you missed it. Now, in this game, you control Freddy, or Fredbear, if you will, and you have to give cake to a bunch of hyperventilating children. This is not the point of focus I want to bring to your attention, however. The point of focus is the crying child outside. Now, who is this child? Why is he crying? Well, an obvious reason why he is crying is probably because he wants to go to Fredbear's too. Wants to go in, party, have some cake, play some games, but he can't afford it for whatever reason. Standard stuff. However, as the game progresses, a car drives up to the restaurant. A purple man steps out and walks over to the child. He does something that we cannot see, at all, and the crying intensifies from the child, leaving streaks down the face. Soon after, the child is dead and left outside the front of the restaurant. Now, it isn't exactly safe to say that this purple man is the same purple man who committed the murders in 1987, mostly because a purple man could easily just be a symbol for a bad person or a murderer. But I think for horror story's sake, a lot of us like to believe that they're one and the same. Though logically speaking, there actually isn't all that much evidence to this, and between 1987 and when Fredbear's was open, that's kind of a gap. But whatever. Now, what of the child, you all ask me? Well, most of the community, myself included, believe that this child would later go on to possess the marionette, who was introduced in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Our main hints being the tear streaks down the puppet's face. Bit of a stretch? I'm sure some of you are thinking, how is this relevant? What if this isn't anything at all? Some people do believe that the size of the restaurant in the minigame is its main nod to Fredbear's Family Diner. Seeing as most of the other minigames, are much larger in scale. However, this could be scaled down for simplicity's sake due to the fact it is a minigame. However, as far as I've seen and read, all of the other 5 main murders happened in the exact same way. A man wearing a suit took him into the back room and killed them there. Not only did this happen outside of the restaurant, but it was committed by a non-costumed assailant. So why haven't the newspaper clippings of Freddy Fazbear's ever really mentioned this murder? Because it was a separate murder entirely, at a different restaurant, one not entirely associated with Fazbear Entertainment, one that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza might want to have forgotten. So when a murder, where the victim is a child, happens outside your restaurant that caters specifically to children, you're bound to lose a few customers who fear for their child's life. Nothing you can really do about it not being your fault, so Fredbear's was probably hurting for money at this point, and they did the only thing they could do: sell out to a larger company, Fazbear Entertainment.
Hey Scott, it's Gary from the Peoria location. Listen, there's something seriously wrong with the spring lock suits. I don't know what happened. I was just helping a new kid into a suit and, I don't know, he knocked something on his way down and, oh god, we can't stop the bleeding. So, listen, I lost Rich's number, and I know we're supposed to call head office before doing anything else, but I don't know what to do here, man. Listen, could you call Rich and get back to me as soon as possible? We're running out of time here, just... Okay, bye.
Now, during Five Nights at Freddy's 3, our usual phone call, for the most part, is replaced with old training tapes, all narrated by our favorite phone guy. And throughout most of these tapes, well, the entirety of these tapes, he is explaining the use and function of these animatronics that we had not yet heard of. These animatronics referred to as spring lock suits. Now, we had never even heard of these before, and as far as we know, they weren't in 1 or 2. Again, as far as we know. And it's made very clear that after they're used, they were strictly retired, not even to be touched again. And we know that the phone guy died after Five Nights at Freddy's 1, so it's not a recent invention either, meaning it has to be before 2, thus placing it perfectly in the timeline. In this guy's opinion, anyway. Now, to further explain or remind on these spring lock suits, the basic idea is that they're supposed to be able to do their basic show on stage as per any other animatronic, but they're also designed, and I quote, to allow people to control these animatronics from inside them. Using a crank device, they are opened up and sealed in, and they should be able to safely walk around in them. If you ask me, it would have been just a little easier and safer just to, buy a mascot costume. But if there's one thing we've learned about Fazbear Entertainment is they don't give a shit about the safety of their employees. As we quickly learn, seeing as the phone guy makes it very clear that you can't even breathe too much in these things because the moisture will fuck with the delicate equipment in the spring lock, causing it to snap and forcing the wearer to bleed out. But here's my whole thought process with this whole thing. Why would these spring lock suits be necessary? Well, easy. Because they had yet to develop animatronics that could walk on their own yet. Why else would people need to step into them and walk around as these animatronics? Right? Thus, again, placing it perfectly in the timeline before 2. Yay. Now keep in mind, this is indeed a Fazbear location, as at the end of every night the phone guy does say, "Be sure to smile, you're the new face of Freddy Fazbear's." So as nights progress in the game, the phone guy begins reporting multiple deaths at a sister location. Meaning a couple things. One, that this is a much bigger franchise than we're realizing, or at least it used to be. And 2, there's a lot more blood on their hands than the kids that we know about. So, not only do they need to ditch the spring lock suits and go back to the older ones, which are either from Fredbear's or maybe even an older establishment, or just one of the sister establishments that didn't use the spring lock suits, who knows. But they probably have a lot of heat on their ass because of all the employee deaths. So, the higher-ups of Fazbear Entertainment are going to have to think big if they want to get back on their feet.
Scotty, my main man. How you liking it down the front lines, dude? Hearing some top-notch things about the new location here. It's freaking fantastic over there. But yeah, hey, listen. The other higher-ups are a little nervous about leaving the new animatronics alone at night. Because you remember the meeting last week where we found out we, can't turn these things off at all? Or their joints lock, whatever the hell that guy was talking about. I wasn't really paying attention. But, yeah, they're kind of a little antsy, worried that those things might, try to leave the building somehow. You know, next thing you know, they're out in the street and get hit by a car. Those things are freaking expensive. We can't really afford that, man. So, we're thinking of hiring some night help, just someone to watch them, supervise them, whatever. So yeah, if you could get the ball rolling on that, that'd be great. We do still have that slight bug where for some reason they see any employees in the back offices as a suitless endoskeleton. I'm trying to figure out what the hell that is, man. I'll get back to you when we do. But for now, I don't know, just grab one of those friggin' Freddy heads from the back. That should trick most of the animatronics. Except Foxy. I don't know why you even like that pain in the ass so much. But yeah, hey, just give me a call. We'll try and figure something out about this.
Now that we're done with all that introduction, let's get into the actual games now, shall we? Now, it's pretty safe to say that the Five Nights at Freddy's 2, aka the 1987 location, is where most of the actual story happens. After that little, spring lock suit ordeal, Fazbear Entertainment really had to step up their game if they were going to get anyone to forget that whole little debacle. So, what do? They spent a small fortune on new animatronics. Their words, not mine. And that's where we got the toys. Yes, they finally got walking animatronics with facial recognition software. Needless to say, they put all of their chips onto this restaurant. Now I hear some of you cry out, why can the older animatronics walk too if my whole theory is that they couldn't before this restaurant? Very simple, actually, because Phone Guy even says at one point that the old animatronics were retrofitted with the newer technology. Now there are two major events that happen at this location. In fact, they even seem to happen on the exact same week you're working there. Kind of. Let me explain. It's around night 4. As the week progresses, I believe it's night 4. The Phone Guy begins acting nervously, saying that the animatronics are acting strangely. Now, if you've read the newspaper clippings in Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you'll read that not all of the murders seem to happen at once. As one clipping reads, 2 children have gone missing, and one clipping reads, "The body count has now risen to 5. Meaning that at the time you start, a few children have already been murdered and stuffed in a suit. Yeah. However, on night 5 is when things really begin to start. As the phone guy proclaims, someone has taken a suit. A yellow one. Now, for a long time, the community believed this yellow one to be Golden Freddy, obviously, because he was the only... well, he wasn't the only suit that was yellow, for keeping track of Chica as well, but he was the only culprit as this suit, as he always seemed to be empty and yellow. However, after the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I am pretty confident in saying that Springtrap, or Spring Bonnie, as he is referred to in some of the tapes, is the actual culprit. Now this can be a bit confusing, seeing as the phone guy does refer to the suit as the yellow one, which would allude to there only being one, and both Spring Bonnie and Golden Freddy are yellow in color. However, there's still a lot more evidence supporting that Springtrap is the suit the murderer used. For starters, it is referenced multiple times that the Golden Freddy suit is the host of the 5th dead child. For starters, in the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame, there are only 4 children slumping there, even though there are 5 murders. In this game, you play as the marionette, and you're giving these only 4 children the masks of the other 4 main animatronics in the first game, thus implying that the spirit of the marionette is sort of riling up the spirits within the other animatronics to begin haunting with it, if you will, and yet there is no 5th child, or is there? As most of us know by now, if you pause just before the jump scare, the 5th child's form shows up in the center of the room, hidden by the Golden Freddy jump scare. And that is why a lot of us seem to believe that Golden Freddy is the host for the 5th dead child. However, I do have a small theory about Golden Freddy that I'm sure a lot of you drew a conclusion to as well, and that is the fact that Golden Freddy might very well be a Springlock suit himself. This is due to the fact that, well, A, yes, he's yellow in color, just like the other spring suit we've seen. B, he's also the only other suit we've seen in a sitting position, along with Springtrap. And, well, we've noticed that he seems empty, but still has kind of an endoskeleton if you look at his ankles. Why do I bring this up, though? Well, you notice Golden Freddy's the only one that can't walk? I'm sure that Scott programmed him that way because he thought it'd be scary, but if we're going to look at this from a logical point of view, if he can't walk, that means he's probably a Springlock suit. Now why Springtrap can't, if the only thing running them is probably the hauntings? Well, to be fair, Springtrap has a full-grown man inside him, where Golden Freddy only has a child, therefore it only shows up in spirit, or a hallucination. And perhaps the most damning evidence that Springtrap is indeed the suit they're talking about in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is, well, he's still inside it. As straight up shown to us in the final minigame of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I mean, all he had to do was take the last kid back into the room, murder them, stuff them into whatever suit he hadn't stuffed yet, and then all he'd have to do is laugh in triumph and it'd spring on him and he would be dead. Now, the newspaper clippings have said that someone was apprehended for the crimes. However, we can't be certain that the right person was caught. Because, well, a lot of evidence points to us saying that the Purple Man died in the Spring Bonnie suit, so someone got scapegoated, unfortunately. However, you can't not arrest someone when a child murder is involved. Anyway, things aren't looking good for this new location. It looks like it might be closing its doors as well. And the Bite of 87 did nothing to help that. Now, we know the Bite of 87 happened shortly after the murders for one simple reason. On night 6, the phone guy goes on to say that the restaurant's pretty much closed down due to investigation. However, they do have one more engagement. A birthday party. Which we all know, the bite happened at a birthday party. So the debate on who actually caused the bite will go on forever until Scott gives us a straight answer, which I don't think he will. Some people think it was Freddy due to the fact that his mask does indeed have a handprint on his face and on his chin a bit, as if someone was pushing him away to make sure he wasn't biting. My theory, however, on that is he's just an old animatronic who's probably been manhandled one too many times in his lifetime. Some believe it's Foxy, due to the fact that his jaw seems broken in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. However, if you were to stop for a frame when he jump scares you, you can see that his jaw is indeed closed when he's yelling it, but just before he yells at you, I mean. So, who do I think caused the bite? Well, the Mangle, obviously, and here's why. Firstly, it's said very specifically that the toys alone are the ones that are going to be scrapped due to malfunction. Why would they get the butt of the situation? That's because a toy caused the bite. And in addendum, why would an old one be kept around if it was known for biting people? Secondly, how could one of the older animatronics bit someone if they were all in a back room somewhere? Now I know that Fazbear Entertainment is kind of incompetent, so a kid sneaking to the back isn't exactly out of the question, but for reality's sake, if it were me, would I want to go sneak into a back room of a restaurant? Or would I rather stay up front and play some of the, skee ball and shit? I'm going for option 2. And finally, out of all of the animatronics in the restaurant, the only one whose entire purpose was to be up close and personal with the children as a special attraction where the children get to touch you is the Mangle, which gives her the prime location to bite someone. Now that may not be good enough for some of you, but if you're asking this observer, all fingers point into the Mangle's corner. And after the murders and the bite, Freddy Fazbear's is forced to close its doors yet again. This time vowing that they will return one day with the older animatronics at a much smaller budget.
Hey Scotty, Rich again. Hey listen, I don't know how to break this to you, but looks like we're gonna be closing out at the end of the year here. Yeah, money hasn't been looking too good. In fact, this is my last day, so, yeah, good old Richie's being downsized. Fucking figures. But hey, don't say I never did you any favors, okay? I finally found someone to take over for you on the night shift. Name's Mike Schultz. Give him a call. Doesn't seem like he'd be totally incompetent. But yeah, at least you'll finally get out of that right. Just warn him about the power, warn him about Foxy. You know how it goes. Well, I guess I'd better pack up. Been nice working with you, man. Good luck out there. And hopefully I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.
Funnily, this is where we started our journey in this little adventure. But this is where Freddy Fazbear's Pizza will close their doors once and for all. After blowing all of their money on a really nice restaurant with high-tech animatronics, you could say that Fazbear's was probably hurting on finances as of late. So much so that they could only afford to have so much power per day so that they could stay out of the red. However, I like to think they learned a thing or two about safety in their past multiple failures, as the animatronics are now no longer allowed to walk during the day. However, due to the strange systems that they use, they have to walk sometime, and that time is at night. And although it is of small comfort with the small amount of power that one could use at night, I still believe they learned a little something with safety for their staff there too, as they did give the Night Watch protective doors. And a lot of things happened at this location, but it wasn't without its bloodshed either, as this was a location where Fazbear Entertainment's longest-lasting and most loyal employee met his end. The phone guy met his unfortunate end on night 4 in the first game. The one we've come to know through the classic location, the 1987 location, even most of this location, as he temporarily took the night shift shortly before your arrival. It's hard to say which animatronic killed him, other than we know an animatronic did. Some say Golden Freddy, some say Foxy, some say Freddy himself, but seeing as there were multiple sound effects from different animatronics included in his attack, I'm assuming it was just a mass gang-up, and he was finally taken down. Of course, losing their most prominent employee wasn't on the top of Fazbear Entertainment's list of problems, as they were still facing many financial troubles. A newspaper clipping in the original game reads that this particular location was set to close out at the end of the year, and no company wanted to buy them out due to the fact they probably didn't want to touch that mess after all it's been through. Afterwards, Fazbear's Pizza finally died and closed its doors for good. I am still here. "30 years have passed, and Fazbear Entertainment has more than likely been out of business for many, many years at this point. However, the rumors and legends that followed this disturbing pizzeria still resonated within the people of this world. So, apparently the best course of action was to open a horror attraction based on the restaurant. Admittedly, this would sell awesomely in our world, but in the world of the game, this was bound to go wrong. The first big problem is it's made very clear at the beginning that they tried way too hard for the authenticity of the older state of the restaurant. It's never made entirely clear if Fazbear Entertainment is actually involved in this. By the sounds of it, it seems like an independent project. However, in their goals for authenticity, they made a barely functioning mess of an establishment, with failing camera, audio, and a ventilation system that you have to reset, because due to lack of oxygen and who knows what else, you could start hallucinating very disturbing things should you not fix it. And not to mention, the threat of this place just spontaneously catching on fire is such a serious issue that it literally does at the end of the game. I warned you about spoilers, by the way. It's like over 25 minutes into the video. You should have expected them by now. Now, for the most part, this new establishment just seems to be filled to the brim with what the new Dudemeister phone guy calls artifacts. So mostly just old drawings, old game cabinets, even the suits and heads of our good old favorite animatronics are adorning this place like decorations. However, the people running this house of horrors are looking for something much more substantial to roam the halls. And unfortunately for us, they found something. Springtrap. The very suit that killed the murderer of 87 and still houses his corpse. Now, much like the other suits that have bodies stuffed in them, it's pretty safe to say that the Springtrap suit is more than likely possessed with the spirit of the murderer of 1987. And it's also probably safe to say that the possession alone is what allows the spring suit to move. This would also explain why this particular animatronic seems to have an adult level of intelligence and a straight-up aggressive demeanor. Well, more aggressive than the others, to some degree. Our only defenses against this monstrosity remain two things. One, the vents, which you can seal up so he can't get to you as fast, and two, audio clips of a child's voice, which you can use to lure him from room to room, keeping him as far away from you as possible. But this brings to question. Is Springtrap just following the rule of animatronics need to stay where the kids are? Or is the spirit within the suit just attracted to the children's voices because he is still haunted by what happened so long ago? In these eyes, I personally say, perhaps a bit of both. And on top of all that, this place is haunted by the phantom forms of previous animatronics. It's hard to say what these are exactly, as they seem a bit specific to be just hallucinations due to lack of oxygen, though I'm sure that doesn't help. But personally, I believe that these things are simply the spirits of the dead children choosing to take on a more ethereal state. The actual plot of this story is told mostly through the minigames, as the phone calls this time are mostly just to introduce us to the Springlock suits. At the end of each night, you play a small minigame where you control one of the four main animatronics we have come to know and respect, at the very least. And in each one, as you take control of them, you are led by a mysterious purple Freddy sprite, which I'm assuming we're meant to believe is just a symbol of the Purple Man and what he did so many years ago. He then leads you to a specific part of the map. And in this part, the animatronics can't seem to enter, as this is a secret area that was off limits due to harboring the Springlock suits, or so we're led to believe. However, the Purple Man doesn't follow these rules, and once the animatronics turn their back, he then dismantles them. Why is he dismantling them, though? It's my opinion that, particularly in this game, these minigames represent a state of purgatory, and dying the way he did, he's trapped there as well, and seeing these suits, the resting places where he put the kids so many years ago, probably frighten him in one way or another, and destroying them makes him feel a little more safe, comfortable in this odd setting. However, you don't need to follow the purple Freddy sprite right away. You do if you want to continue, but should you explore the restaurant in the game a bit more, you will discover a particular hall that the community has dubbed the Clue Corridor. And down there each night, you'll find a specific clue that will allow you to figure out how to unlock other mini-games in the story. And it is these games you need to beat if you want to unlock the true ending of the game. Now, they're rather tricky and kind of convoluted, admittedly, but doing this will finally put the big mystery of the series to rest. Technically, you need to play BB's minigame first. However, the first one that actually has any impact on the plot is the Mangles. In the Mangles, after you've gotten the balloon platforms from BB's first half, you will find that you can reach a cake, and when you get the cake, her game ends. Then you may return to BB's, and then in BB's game, you'll find the balloon platforms there as well, and the soul of a dead child, in which BB presents some cake to him. Throughout the rest of the night, you'll play as Toy Chica, Golden Freddy, and Shadow Bonnie, each of them giving cake to their child as well. Not to say that they're actually stuffed with this child, but each one of those minigames also has the soul of a child. In the final minigame, called Happiest Day, you play as the Marionette. This is by far the simplest game as well, as it's just a long hallway. It seems to be a huge party going on, and in the final room you'll find the 5 dead children. For the most part, the 4 that we've already saved from BB, Toy Chica, Shadow Bonnie, and Golden Freddy's games are wearing the masks of the animatronics you've come to know, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And when Marionette presents the final child with his cake, he too puts on a mask for the party, and his is Golden Freddy's, thus implying that those are the animatronics that were indeed stuffed. And once all 5 children are at the party, their bodies vanish, leaving their masks behind as they float away in the form of balloons. And funnily enough, the Marionette also vanishes, his mask also falling to the ground, proving that he is a 6th spirit, aka the spirit outside Fredbear's family diner. Now the final act, the minigame on the 5th night. Rather than playing as one of the animatronics, you play a spirit of a dead child. Now, why not Golden Freddy if he was in fact the 5th child, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Well, for one, we already had a minigame with him, and that would have been rather redundant. 2, I actually feel this suit was lost a long time ago, most likely between the 1987 final locations of Freddy Fazbear's. This also being why we never actually physically saw the suit. So we're stuck with the spirit instead. As a child, your instinct is to immediately go to the room you've been banned from thus far. However, not being an animatronic, you can enter the room just fine. There you already find the other 4 children have cornered the Purple Man in this room. He appears frightful and appears to be wielding a knife as well. You can't approach him, he's too afraid to be near you, he's most likely not expecting to ever see these children again. So, as you approach him, he will always back away. However, one final act of desperation, he runs into the Springtrap suit, hopefully to feel safe inside the suit that had given him so much power those many years ago, only to have it all backfire on him again as the Springtrap suit kills him, yet again. I believe this is for 2 reasons. One, I think it was for us as the audience so that we could see who was in the suit and what suit he used and who is in Springtrap, and just to show that the Purple Man is getting his righteous punishment, perhaps even damning him to the suffering forevermore. And at the end of the game, all we see are the heads of our favorite animatronics resting in the ashes of Fazbear Frights, after it burnt down in a freak accident sometime after Night 6. Of course, had you not known how to get the good ending and got the bad ending instead like I had, you would have seen basically the same thing. Except you would have also seen the head of Golden Freddy hiding in the shadows, as all 5 of their heads were alight with life. However, in this case, they are now gone. After decades of torture, the souls of the dead children are finally free. And perhaps, just perhaps, we are free too. Doubtful. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, the toys, the Mangle, BB, the Marionette, Springtrap. Long history, lots of bloodshed. Literally only Fazbear Frights seem to have no one die in its establishment. Unless, the new phone guy or the night guard was caught in the fire. But it never said that, so we're safe to assume that's the only one where lives were spared. The series was a stroke of genius, and beautifully executed. And part of me thinks that this is the end of it all. And that same part of me kind of hopes it is, too, because it's a beautiful package on its own, and going past 3 might begin to dilute it a bit, just a touch, just extremely. But there will always be that part of me, that annoying fanboy part of me, who will always want more. I mean, it would be cool to have 5 Nights at Freddy's, And there are some things we just don't have answers to yet. Like we know Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, and the Marionette are possessed by the dead children, and that Springtrap is possessed by the murderer, but that still leaves 5 whole animatronics. I mean, were they haunted residually, or is that something else entirely? And what was Shadow Bonnie? I mean, not only was it acknowledged with its own minigame and with a plushie, was that the spirit of Springtrap projecting himself to you? Or was that just something else? We don't know. In fact, about 90% of what I said in this video was all speculation, so who knows what's true? Unless one day Scott explains the whole thing to us, we will never know. And I think that's kind of great. And I think that's why it's best we're done here. Because going any further, I feel it would just give us the answer. But leaving it here, it sort of does something most games don't do. A lot of games spoon-feed you a story if there even is one. But this one gives us the freedom to work it out and craft it for ourselves. And that's why this work is pure genius. And so I'm going to leave it with this. Scott, Mr. Cawthon, I highly doubt you're watching this, and I highly doubt I need to say this, but I'm going to anyway. I beseech you, beg you, if you're done with 5 Nights at Freddy's, please keep making games. I'd love to see more horror games, but you need to keep making games. You have a talent, nay, a gift for making these. And if you made another anything with that much thought and care again, I am certain it will be not only just as good, but most likely even better. And the world needs that. But should we all be wrong about this being the end? If 5 Nights at Freddy's is set to return once again, I will welcome it with open arms, and I will see you then. Because I am always ready for Freddy's. Hello, this is Simon Dexter, and that was a theoretical history of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I just wanted to take this time to thank you for watching my video. It means a lot. I know this was probably not the most impressive thing for some of you, but I put a lot of work into this video, so it's really appreciated that you took the time for it. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a comment or a like to let me know. If you guys really liked it, who knows? Maybe I'll do something similar down the road. If you're new, please feel free to subscribe. I mostly read various creepypasta and fanfiction to reaction review. But I also do talk about varying subjects of interest from time to time. Again, thank you all, and I will see you all real soon.